Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
7:37 on the Morning Majority. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham here, and we get to talk to Charles Murray. He's an American libertarian political scientist and an author of a new book called Coming Apart, also author of The Bell Curve. You remember that one. How's it going, Charles?
It's going pretty good. Pretty busy the last few days.
So we've been talking about class a lot in politics. Your book is a study of how class in America has evolved over the past 50 years. Does it jibe with the way we talk about it politically? What were your findings?
Not at all. Everybody is focused on income inequality these days, with the 1% and all that. And I'm talking about a kind of cultural inequality that has taken over during the last 50 years, which is simply unprecedented.
And how does that manifest? Well,
let me give you a quick example. Marriage. There's no more central cultural institution than marriage, right? Mm-hmm. The white working class, people with high school educations working in working class occupations, 1960, about 84% of them were married. In 2010, 48%. That's less than half. I'm talking about people ages 30 to 49. That is the collapse of a central cultural institution. And it hasn't happened in the upper middle class, where 84% of the people are still married. That's the kind of change that we've been looking at for the last half century.
And can you quantify what impact that has on the society, what it has on the economy, what it has on society in general?
It has almost unlimited effects. I mean, think about it for a minute, Brian. You've got when you don't have marriage, mm-hmm. for example, you also have completely different work habits by men.
Right.
To put it bluntly, men don't do so well when they aren't married mm-hmm. in the labor market. You have completely different social capital. And by social capital, I mean all the things that make a community work, whether it's coaching Little League or volunteering for charity events or attending city council meetings. The same thing goes with other changes in our society. So religiosity, the bottom has dropped out of that in the white working class. Industriousness, lots and lots of guys in the prime of life who aren't even looking for jobs. The effects of this are, in effect, to create two different Americas, two different cultures, in a country which has always prided itself on having a single civic culture.
How did it get that way? Were there policies made, or was it just the culture changed so that we would have fewer people getting married?
You had the perfect storm in the 1960s and 70s. You had a lot of changes in policy that I have criticized in Losing Ground and other books that I think got a lot of these things jump-started. But you also had changes in the popular culture, in the movies, in the films, in the promulgation of norms. At this point, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. Mm-hmm. We can point fingers at why it happened, but that doesn't mean that we can turn back the clock by turning back certain policies.
Is it fair to say that some of the social experimentation of the 60s didn't stick with the upper middle classes who were originally championing it and sort of disproportionately affected the lower class? Is that what happened? That's
a fascinating thing. You had the upper middle class, which played around with the sexual revolution and with the counterculture and all that, and they sort of came back into line after a while. So the irony is that the upper middle class today, many of whom still consist of aging baby boomers, stay married pretty well. They work long hours. They do a pretty good job of raising their kids. They are completely middle class in the old-fashioned sense of America. But you know what they won't do is they won't preach what they practice. Right. They will not say, these are good ways to live. These are good for our children, and they're good for ourselves, and these ought to be the norms for society. Non-judgmentalism has taken over.
You say that the culture is unraveling as a result of all this. How so, and what happens if we don't do something to sort of resolve this issue?
Well, let me take the last part first. If we don't do anything to resolve it, we have a choice that will be made for us in the next generation, and that is America will look a lot more like Latin America than it does like traditional America. We will have the fortunate people on the hill, and they won't be the billionaires. They will be this upper middle class I'm talking about that's doing very well, and you'll have a large chunk of the rest of society that simply doesn't participate in American society anymore. They are not part of America's civic culture. And we're talking about a good-sized chunk the population, maybe as much as 20%. America, as we've known it, can't persist with that kind of class culture.
Part of the thesis, if I understand it correctly, is that we live in separate bubbles, these different class tribes, and that we do not often overlap. I actually took the quiz in your book about how connected I was to other, and I think all three of us in this room would probably score higher than a lot of people in Washington because we lived in rural areas and that kind of thing. I was about a 65, 66. But
I think you're higher than I am.
Is the mixing of those classes the remedy, and how do you do that?
Well, I don't think you do it by passing a law. I'll tell you how I'm trying to do it. I'm trying just to bring to people's attention that it's a problem. And that's not so hard, you know. When I talk to people who live in Northwest Washington about their kids, I get a lot of positive response of saying, I'm worried about the extent to which my kids are living in a bubble, and they only know other kids like themselves, and they're going to go to colleges where they don't know anybody except themselves. I think there is a potential out there for responding to this problem once you point it out to people.
Is it just, I mean, you focus on the state of white America, but what about other, races and ethnicities? And I would say this, I mean, I grew up in pretty much a white neighborhood growing up, and today I live in an upper class neighborhood, I would call it, but it's more diverse. Is that an accurate example of what's going on in America, even in these upper echelon neighborhoods?
You mean more racially?
More racially and ethnicity as well being mixed, or is it solely a white issue in the way you write your book?
Well, this is the good news. That in fact a lot of the residential segregation is diminishing. It's not gone, but it's diminishing. So you're right about that greater diversity, and that's good. But in your neighborhood, the African American residents of that neighborhood, I have a feeling, are professionals and managers and
married with kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I should point out something. The reason I talk about white America is to concentrate people's attention, because when I talk about the issues of marriage and work and so forth, I don't want people to be able to say, well, he's really talking about problems in the black community or the Latino community. I want people to understand, these are non-Latino whites who are exhibiting these trends.
Well, Charles, great to have you on. It's a fascinating book. We really appreciate it. And good